actually thinking of that 6 years ago. I was working in a hotel as a restaurant manager, and now actually I'm a speaker of a global event. It's just mind-blowing that how fast the things can actually progress when you're interested in technology. And yeah, I had no idea what Office 365 or SharePoint is that time, but now actually I'm really enjoying exploring all these new technologies like Power Apps, MS Flow, and etc. And I'm really actually in love with Power Platform, with the capabilities. It saves a lot of troubles over the time. So I created a lot of solutions using Power Apps or Power Automate. And the thing is that if you read some of my articles in my LinkedIn or in my blog, in the Dynamics community blog, you'll see that all the format of these articles is basically same as you will see in this document, step-by-step guide. Because I think that in order to learn the technology and it's what it's capable of, it's actually you need a real life scenario so you can put this technology into a test and see what it can do. So today with you, we'll create actually an automated process for creating opportunities in Dynamics CRM. Basically, if we start with the standard process, like 90% of the IT administrators or CRM administrators will, of course, use the standard data management import function in Dynamics CRM, which is, of course, I try to use it also some times ago. That's why I came with the solution of this process to create. But what the problem is here is that it is a quite lame, if I have to be honest with you, as a process, because a part of that you need to import the file. Let's say you delegate this to the salespeople, which we all know that the salespeople are not that technical and with the system itself. But if you delegated this to them, they will have to actually you have to teach them how to import files and how to map the fields and everything, or otherwise you have to do it yourself and waste your time in doing this every time when there's a need of importing bulk data in CRM. So if you start with the import data, for example, and you choose the file, normally, let's say in this scenario, we are covering, you're working for an international company that have offices all around the world. And your company works with partners, let's say from Asia, from America, from Europe, and all these partners, they have their own deals that they're doing within their territory. But what you want to do is actually you want to import all these deals as opportunities in Dynamics CRM. So basically you're requesting from the partners to sell you all the deals by the end of the month in an Excel file, and then you have to import these opportunities in Dynamics CRM. So normally a file like this should contain very simple, but let's say the topic of the opportunity, the client that they're working with, the email address of the client, the currency, the budget, and of course some other fields, maybe a product or if there's any related order, and etc. Of course, for the purpose of the demo, I'll keep it quite simple with only with the basic required fields. So let's say the salesperson received this file at the end of the month, so he have to go in Dynamics CRM and upload them. But what the first problem that he will face is actually if he straight away get the opportunity file, which is a XLS extension, CRM will definitely tells you that the format is not correct, and you won't be able to start with this file. Okay, in my case right now, there we go. It's just a little late. So now what the salesperson have to do is either, if he knows how, to go and convert the file to a CSV file, a format to upload it, or most probably he will chat with the IT guys, that, hey guys, I need this file in a different format. So you have it in the CSV file, convert it, then you have to go here and start with mapping the fields. First of all, you choose the file is related with opportunities, so you want to create an opportunities, and then you start mapping the required fields as here. But then you hit the second problem, and this is actually that we're not quite sure actually how many of these records really exist in Dynamics CRM. In my case, I have 15 files, which will be quite easy if I go and search them one by one. But imagine if you have thousands of records that you need to upload in Dynamic CRM, then it will be quite difficult or even impossible for the salesperson to go and check them one by one. So what will be the problem here is if he proceeds and upload the file, only the records that exist in CRM will be uploaded. For the rest of them, the system will give them an error message that the lookup reference cannot be resolved, or the record is missing from Dynamic CRM. And then, of course, this lookup will be for sure for the accounts as inside the opportunity, as we can see here. Let's open this one. You have an account. So if that account does not exist and you're trying to create an opportunity with it, CRM will give you an error message with the lookup reference cannot be resolved. So the salesperson now will have some of the deals, not all of them. We're not even sure if it's going to be half of them or 90% of them created. But for the rest that the account is not existing, they won't be created. They will be skipped by the system. So you have to go and basically create first the account.
What do you say to Billy Burns?
And then, of course, go there and create the opportunities themselves. I think someone mics is on.
I did the same thing in this corner.
Right? Can you hear me?
Yes, Kirill, we can hear you now. We've muted them. Thank you for that. I apologize.
No problem. Right. So as I said, the salesperson have to then create a new list with the accounts that are not existing, but he really doesn't know how many of them are not existing. Upload them and create them in CRM, and then go back to the records, the opportunities that were not created, and upload them once again. So to save a time and actually do this automatically, we'll start using Power Automate for this purpose by creating a process that will first get the Excel file. We'll go through all the rows. Then it will check if the email addresses actually exist as an account in CRM. And for those that exist, we'll go ahead, and create an opportunity. And for those that does not exist in CRM, we'll first create an account using the account name and the email address. And then we'll go back and create an opportunity. So with one action, we'll be actually saving 3 steps that we need to do in CRM by ourselves. So we're starting with, first of all, very important, make sure that you always check your environment that you're working in. In my case, that's quite simple. I have only one environment, but by default, you should be always in the default environment. In my case, this will be Composer. Then we'll need to create Cloudflow with, we'll use actually a, let's see, create new opportunity from an Excel file. And for a trigger point, I will be using a button. And the input will be yes, no for the test. And the message that the user can get will be create new opportunities in CRM. All right, so far so good. Then a first step that we'll be having here is, sorry, let me just turn back to my notes. All right, so first things first, we need to have the Excel file and we need to upload it in our OneDrive for Business. Most of the time you might have a general folder, let's say in my case it's CRM opportunities, where you will be always uploading this file. So it will be easy to separate it from the rest of the files that you have in this OneDrive. And for this purpose, I've imported my file straight away in a different folder. And we'll be starting with the new step from the Excel online using list rows in the table. That way we want first to get all the rows here so we can later on use them in the process. Location will be actually our OneDrive for Business. But you can have this file in your personal OneDrive or in your Dropbox as well. Document library is OneDrive, and then we have the file itself, which is the opportunity import. Since the file have only one table, and it's this one, there should be only one option here. But of course, if you have more than one table, let's say within the same file, you create also leads and opportunities, then you can split the process into two, and then you can have a separate steps for creating an opportunity and then creating a flow and creating a lead, sorry. So the flow can actually check for existing accounts, contacts, products, and then follow the rest of the logic. Here, to keep it simple, we'll just have one table and we'll be creating opportunities. Now, after we have the list rows in the table, the first thing that we want to do is actually to check how many of these records here exist in CRM. So we'll be using a common data service connector. Now, there are two connectors to common data service. One is the standard common data service, and one is the current environment, which presumes actually that you want to execute actions in the environment that you're currently in. And there are actually quite a lot of options here that you steps that you can use. But I've seen this many times that there's a lot of problems with triggering the flow or finding the environment. And especially for create and for list records, I always prefer using the standard common data service connector and to point the environment myself. So that way I'm 100% sure that I'm working and I'm telling the flow to check the correct environment. Here we'll be using a list record environment, a list record step, and I will rename the step with list accounts. What is very important is always make sure that you name your steps, because if you have complex flows, it will be much easier to point the field that you want to use later in the flow, other than using the standard list a record, create a record naming that it's by default set to the step. For environment, we will select our CRM organization. As I said, I have only one that it's selected, and the entity name will be accounts. I will export this, and for filter query, this is actually what we'll be using for a filter to get the accounts. Here will be the account email field, and to get actually filter, we'll need to use the schema name of the field in Dynamics CRM. And to get this, I'm actually using some extensions for Chrome that allows me, and for Edge that allows me actually to see the schema names. When you're working in CRM and building flows and power-ups, etc., it's most of the time you work with the schema names of the fields, not with the display one. So it's easier for you actually if you use some tool to get them straight away from the UI instead of going to customizations, then going to the form itself and see the schema name of the fields. So in my case, I will be using email address one, as for me, this will be the unique identifier of the record in CRM. And if we go to the flow, our filter query will be email address equals, and inside a single quotations, we'll use the account email field. Now, the system automatically will put this list account step into a loop applied to each, as this needs to be done for all, let's see how many are they, all 14 records in our table. So that's why it's inside the apply to each step. And just to make sure that we have everything, we'll add additional step here, which is a compose step. And we'll use this expression here, which tells basically if the length of the body is greater than 0, then return true, otherwise return false. You'll see now when we run the test, actually how the output will look for this record. So with this step, we can click save, and we can give it a try. I'll use the manual trigger first of all, as I've never used this, never tested this flow before. Later on, I can reuse the previous tests. And the trigger will be, there we go. Now for the first step, depending on the amount of records that you have in your Excel file, of course, will take quite a lot of time as it needs to go and using the filter criteria to look for all the records in CRM. So if the Excel table contains 1,000 rows, then of course it will require some time for the flow to run. But the end result will be, let's see, for the first row from our Excel table, actually the flow tells us that it is a false, meaning that that record does not exist in CRM. And we can see this actually in the outputs. As we said, the expression was the body length should be greater than 0. And here actually it's empty, meaning that there's nothing to return. Quite often I'm using this expression here for the length greater than 0 when I'm splitting the process into true or false. And this is also very useful. I'm encouraging you when you're building a complex flows, actually to break the flow into smaller pieces and test it step by step before you start progressing and building and adding more and more actions. That will be easier for you actually to troubleshoot when something breaks, instead of building the entire flow and then somewhere in the middle of the flow actually it breaks. Then you have to correct the step, and if there are any dependencies from the in the other steps, then this will break down and you have to delete them and or rewrite them again. So as we can see, for the first row there's nothing, but if you go to row number 13, we will see that now we have actually a true value, meaning that there is an existing record in CRM with this email address. And indeed there is one. We can see the email address is this. That's the name of the account, a datum, and all the other information that we can get about the account. So knowing that everything is working, the next thing that we need to do is, if you go back to our Excel table, we can see that we have a column called currency, which is a string, and we have the name of the currency. The problem here is that when we create an opportunity, the currency field is a required one. But we cannot just go and tell Power Automate, put in the currency field this name that we wrote down here. That is not going to work because the currency field itself, it's a UUID or unique identifier of the currency record itself. And you're trying actually to put in the ID field a string value, which will give you for sure an error message in your Power Automate, in your flow. So what you need to do is, same as the account, you need to go and list all the currencies in your CRM and search the currency by the name of the currency that you have here. If we go to the currency entity, you'll see that actually we need the currency name. So we'll go and create again a new step as the list currency, as the list account. But this time we will connect to common data service. We'll use list record step. Once again, I will rename this to list currencies. Environment will be the same one. Entity is currencies. And again, filter criteria, filter query will be actually, we need the currency name here to match the currency column value here. So we'll go back to the currency. I'll use the same extension for my browser and get the schema name, which is a currency name. And here we'll say we need the currency name equal, again in a single quotations. We will get the currency value from the Excel table. Okay, let's give it a try before we move to the rest of the logic. This time, since I already ran the flow, I can use the previous test results instead of manually triggering it with a yes and no option. All right, and a few more seconds to complete, and there you go. Now the accounts, we already know that they're existing, and for the currencies, they all exist. That's for sure, unless if you haven't added any new currency that you're not having in CRM, then you need to create it actually, or have a new step to create that specific currency. So in the first record, the currency that it's found in CRM is actually a euro with the sign, Let's check the other one. And here the currency is US dollars, and so on for the rest, for the remaining 12 rows. So now we confirm that we have the accounts, we have the currencies for CRM. The next thing that we need to do is actually using a condition, true or yes and no condition. So we can tell the process what to do with the values that exist and the ones for the records that exist and the one that does not exist in CRM. As I said, for the one that exists, we want to straight away go and create an opportunity and link them with the accounts. But for the one that it doesn't, we will need to first create the accounts and then create new opportunities and link them together. So I will use, for the condition, I'll use the output from the compose step to equal true. I'll go to the expression. And the first, and actually the only step that we will have here, it's again in the common data service, and we use create a new record step. Pointing the environment, and the entity record that we need to create, it will be account. So from here, we will use for the account name column in our Excel table, and for the email address, which is, there you go. And for email, we will be using account email. As you can see, that's everything that we need for the account record. We're not going to test this one for now. We'll just go straight away to the no path. And here we actually have the same step as create new record for the, sorry, but that's a problem because we are not creating an account, but actually we are creating an opportunity. So I did it the other way around. All right, so we're creating opportunities. As we said, we already know that account exists. The topic will be the topic from the Excel file. Now, for the currency, as I said earlier, we cannot straight away put the currency. And because we already checked the currency if it exists in CRM, we can actually straight away say that the currency will be the ID of the currency of the existing currency CRM. So this is always when you're using a lookup fields and you want to insert values, you always have to refer to the unique ID of the record itself. Rather, if it's currencies, accounts, let's say contacts, or you're adding a product, first you have to list these products or these records, and then you need to use the unique identifier of the record itself. So for us, the currency will be transaction currency, and you can see that it says at the bottom unique identifier of transaction currency. It will put automatically this into apply to each, as it has to be done for all the existing accounts that needs to be for all the opportunities need to be created. And for the potential customer, again the same. We will use the unique ID of the account, as we already listed the accounts, and we know that the one that exists, they will have the ID in CRM, and we need to use this ID. So we'll use unique identifier of the account. Okay. Last but not least, we need to, for the budget amount, we will use the estimated budget. And there's something in the opportunities that you need to point, and this is the potential customer type. Because potential customer field can be either account or contact, and in this case, we are telling the MS Flow that he should put here an account. We need to specify that it is an account. Otherwise, if you put, let's say, a contact, but you're telling the MS Flow put here an account, you'll get an error message in your flow saying that an ID with, let's say, a record with an ID so-and-so does not exist in the account or a contact base. So you always have to make sure that you're specifying the type of the customer, and then, of course, you're referring to the same type as chosen below. That's basically everything. I will give a name to this step, create a new opportunity for the existing accounts. All right, and that's actually all for the yes part. Now for the no part, half of the solution, it's the same. We need to create an opportunity, but before we create the opportunity, we have to create a new account for all the non-existing ones. So we will create a new record. I'll give it a name, create a new account. And here entity name will be account. Account name is the account name column from the Excel file, and the email address, which is our unique identifier, will be the email column. All right, and after this step, the only thing that left for us to do is actually again to go to Common Data Service and create a new record, and we will rename this create a new opportunity for non-existing accounts. Okay, and the name will be opportunities. Here the logic is exactly the same as the one that exists, but for the potential customer, this time you will actually look for the unique identifier of the account created in the previous step. So as I said, why it's so important to always properly name your steps is because here you know in which step actually you're taking the information from. In our case, it's create a new account step, and I need the unique account, unique ID of the account that has been created earlier. Everything else is the same. Topic will be our topic from the Excel file. Currency, here also will be transactional currency, since we already have all the currencies listed at the beginning of the flow. And budget amount will be again our estimated budget column, and potential customer, always don't forget an account in this scenario. All right, that's the entire flow. We can now save it and give it a try. Before we test the flow, let's just go to Dynamics CRM and create a filter so we can actually make sure that everything is being created as we expected. So I'll go to all open opportunities, and I'm just going to add additional filters saying that I need all the opportunities created on today. Apply. As you can see, there's nothing listed for today. Okay, and let's test. Now use the previous test. And let's just wait. Now this is important to, if you know that there are many records that you need to upload, most probably it's kind of smart to do this after maybe working hours. So you can give some time for the records to get created if there are thousands or even tens of thousands records, because the flow will require a lot of time to run. But of course, it's always nice to have someone monitoring and reacting if something goes wrong. My suggestion here is test always with a few records, and if everything goes smooth, then just go ahead and import all the files at once instead of uploading 10,000 at once and then start, fixing everything or deleting the one that are wrong or everything. And this should be, here we go. It's ready, and let's just first take a look at the flow, what happened here. We know that the first record does not exist in CRM, so we'll go straight away to the condition, and indeed it went through the null path. It first created an account using the information from the Excel file, and then it actually went and created the opportunity itself. But if we go for row number 13, we will see that actually takes the yes path because the account already exists. So the only thing left here is to create a new opportunity and add the account. Now, if you go to CRM and refresh our view, there we go. we can see that we have 14 records created. For the one that are existing, it just linked to the accounts in CRM. For those that does not exist, it created an account with the information from Excel. Of course, you can add as much information as you need, like a phone, fax, and etc. And then it created the opportunity itself. So, but on my opinion, there's still something that needs to be improved about this flow, and this is the way that the flow gets triggered. So let's say that we don't want always to keep this email in our OneDrive when it's received, but actually we want to get the Excel straight away from the email. So let's say the salesperson receives an email with a list of deals, and we just want this file to be taken by the MS Flow, and straight away, following the same logic, creating the opportunity, check the accounts that's existing, and so on and so on. So I will go back to the home section, and I will create a new flow. But this time I will be using a trigger point, which will be an Outlook. Of course, I've been trying doing this with Gmail, as some clients using a Gmail configuration with Dynamic CRM. But the problem is that Gmail does not allow actually to get the file content from Google Drive itself. So you have to download the file and then import it in OneDrive for Business to be able to use the content and actually to build the flow that we built it before that. So that's why I will use the Automate trigger, and let's say get email attachment. I'll skip this, and for trigger will be Outlook. Trigger will be when a new email arrives. Now here, the default folder will be inbox, but in some cases, maybe you have an automatic rule in your CRM, in your Outlook that tells if you received an email with this subject, then move the email to, let's say, a folder called opportunities or partner opportunities. So then in this case, you need to point to the folder where actually it needs to look for an attachment. Include an attachment will be yes in this case, and only with attachments, yes, if I want to make sure that only emails with attachments in this folder triggers the flow. You can also use a specific subject to even further avoid unwanted triggers of the flow with, let's say, attachments. Second step here will be also from Outlook, but this time we will actually get the attachment itself and get attachment. For the message ID, we'll just get the message ID from the previous step, and the attachment ID will be the attachment again from the email, which is already put in applied to each. If there are more than one attachments, then for each one it has to do the same. Then the next step that we need to create is actually need to use this attachment and create a file in our OneDrive for Business. We'll create a file, folder path. As I said, you might have a specific folder where you store all these attachments, like in my case here, opportunities, or you can just keep them in the general one. File name will be the name of the attachment, and the file content, you really don't have much options here. It's actually content bytes. Okay, and just to be sure that we are not forcing the system or the flow itself, we'll add a delay step of 3 seconds to make sure that the file is being created before we start doing anything with the file. With a 3 seconds delay, and okay, let's save, and let's test it. I will test it manually, and I will send an email with an attachment from my email box. Okay, I have already prepared the email, so I just need to send it. Right, and let's wait for a few seconds so the Exchange can receive the email and MS Flow then can grab it. Okay, we have the email, and now let's go back to our Automate. Sorry, I keep saying MS Flow because they changed the name from Flows to Cloudflows, and yeah. We have the email. Then we have the attachment taken. We've created the file, CRM opportunities Excel, the name of the attachment, and the same file in our Excel. Okay, very good. And then we have a short delay just to make sure that the file is being created. We're actually nearly done with this flow. The next thing that we need actually is first, we need to now connect to Exchange, so to Excel Online, but still we don't know how many tables do we have in the file. So we need to first get tables from the file. So we know from which table we're extracting the information. So location will be OneDrive, document library will be OneDrive as well. And the file, we can use the ID of the create file step. Okay, and let's give it another try, because with the attachments themselves, actually, I cannot reuse the same process because the attachment gets locked by OneDrive automatically. So I will send a new email. Or you can see this, and the error message is the resource you're attempting to access, it's locked. So I've actually send a new email with another attachment. Here we go. And let's go back and see that the flow is running. Why we need this get tables? So we know actually we need to tell in the next step, which is a list roles, from which table the Power Automate needs to list actually the information, like these tables here, and the rows and the columns. And we can see that the name, it's a table 1, and there are actually no other tables, it's only one. So the last step that we will add to this process will be actually the main one, which is a list rows presented in a table. Here, the location will be OneDrive for Business, document library remains OneDrive. The file will be the video of the file, create file step. And for the table, we'll use actually an expression that says, let's use a custom value. And it says actually to get the first value from the get tables step. In our case, to take the name value, which it was table 1. You can use this expression to split if you have more than one, as I said, more than one table. One contains leads and one opportunities. Then you can split it and say what to be done for the let's say table 1 and for table 2. Since I have only one, I will use this and save and test it for last time. Have the email ready. And there we go. We can see that the flow runs successfully. It has the attachment. It created a file in CRM with opportunities import March 2021. has the tables, which is table 1, and then we can see that actually it listed the rows. The remaining of the flow actually will be the same as the one that we did at the first part. Keep adding the steps, create a new list accounts, check, and etc. The good thing about this scenario is actually that it is a real life, and you can straight away, let's say, use it either this way in your organization, or you can modify it the way you want it. For example, as I said, you can maybe have a column with the products here. So you want to also list the products in the opportunity or in a lead. You can use it also for orders or for any other entities that you want to automatically create that are referring to, let's say, account, contacts, or any other records that first needs to be created, and you want to check if they exist or not. And yes, just remember that every time when you're having more and more lookup records, you always have to first list them so you can get the IDs of the one that exist before actually you start using them in the, let's say, an opportunity, in this case, like a currency or the account, so you can have the ID of the records. With that, that's everything about the session. You can download the files, as I said, in the link that I provided in my LinkedIn account. And feel free actually to reach me if you have any questions or any suggestions. I'm actually more than happy to try new solutions. Actually, that's, as I said, the best way to learn about the technology. And I actually love being challenged with very complex solutions. And actually, that's my way also to challenge the software itself by seeing, what it's capable of. And sometimes, of course, you have to bang your head on the table for quite a long time before you actually figure out how to do it. But there's a greater community in Power Platform community where people are more than happy to help you with any questions or any problems that you're facing, as I personally wrote down many topics there, and I always manage to find a solution there. So also just give it a try, and once you manage to build it the way I did it here, then you can go ahead and just try to slightly change some of the steps or add something new. That's all from me.
Thank you, Karil. Look, the reason why we selected this session was because it's a very practical and usable use case.
Yep.
So it's going to be very valuable to all the attendees on their project. So thank you once again.
Yep, tomorrow is Monday, so I'm sure some of the guys might shine tomorrow and say, hey guys, I found a solution how to automate this with the creation of the records, and there you go. You straight away have a solution ready to be actually built it for a couple of minutes in your organization and start working from day one.
So I don't know if you can see the chat window, but there are a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen them.
Nope, I haven't.
So one of the questions was was from Zafar asking, so can we link the existing flow inside another, or in simple terms, can we reuse a flow inside another?
No, unfortunately, I haven't seen, like, let's say in Dynamics CRM, you have the option to start a child flow within another flow, but in Power Automate, I haven't seen this happen. Maybe there's some option to trigger the flow by referring to its ID, flow ID here. But personally, I haven't found any solution on this. So you will actually have to, let's say, start with this one first with the email and add the rest of the logic. The problem is that you cannot also copy the steps and just paste them here. You have to build them yourself. But yeah, once you've tried and you see it, it should be quite easy. To be honest, it took me for this flow a couple of days to figure out some of the things here. But once you get used to with everything, you can just add the other steps here and just continue the flow logic.
Well, it's a great use case, Karil. I have to say, it's a very great use case. So thank you once again for sharing that. It's going to be highly relevant to all the attendees who are looking to get started and implement it. And this is definitely a good use case. So well done, and great session. So keep up the great work. Lots of great feedback from the community. Everyone from Zafar, Bart, Katino, Manish, Cheryl, Brian, Romanov, Ashwini, all thanking you, Rihan. So it is a really good use case, Karil. So thanks again.
Thank you for having me here, and I will keep adding more and more articles in my LinkedIn account and in my blog. So they are all in the same, exactly the same format. Use cases, something that actually it's been coming from the need from some of my customers. And once I managed to build it, I actually share this with the community and with the people, so they can actually straight away get the idea and rebuild it and start using it in their environment. Probably not in the same context, but why not maybe using the same opportunities or etc.
So Lakshmana is asking if you could share your blog details. I think you did that earlier, but if you don't mind sharing it once again, I think that would be beneficial for Lakshmana.